Welcome back to Extra Dirt, the podcast designed to help you and your life group put down deeper roots relationally and spiritually. We've been here for 13 weeks now. I hope it's been as good for you as it has been for me. I've really enjoyed spending the time to prepare these questions and to process a little bit deeper Dan's messages. I hope that your group has been an encouragement to each other, where you've learned and you've grown together. As I mentioned, we're not going to have materials available this next week after Mother's Day and graduation. So if your group does decide to meet, I would encourage you just to take some time to look back. Maybe sit down over a meal together and look back over the last months. Talk about ways in which you have grown to love each other, ways you've been encouraged by your meetings together, ways in which you've grown. Examine the chemistry of your group. What kinds of things can you do to make it a more comfortable and a more life-giving atmosphere? You see, it's possible for us to meet and to do a Bible study and to learn lots of great things, but in an atmosphere in which we still hide the deepest parts of our lives, in which we don't trust others enough to really receive their rebuke, and where we don't feel that we have the authority to speak into other people's lives. And while value can be obtained from those types of meetings, I don't really think that that's the greatest it can get. I look at life groups as a lifelong investment and a way for me to spend consistent time intentionally reading God's Word with other people, with other believers, pursuing Christ together, but also as just kind of one point in my relationship with them. In a truly life-transforming group, the people that you meet with on a weekly basis should also be the people that you look for in church on Sunday, that you're speaking with, that you're catching up with, that you're sharing life with together. They're the kinds of people that you call up on a Friday to go to the honky-tonk barbecue together. You eat a meal there. They're the people that you should feel comfortable inviting to come and head out to the lake with you. I envision life groups really as those relationships in which we together are intentional about the fact that we are gathered consistently, regularly to love God and to glorify Him and to grow closer to Him. But also these are the people that we just, quite frankly, love to be with. And that's why as you look at your group, some of the members may not want to continue. And it may have nothing to do with the content or the discussion of each week. And it may have everything to do with just the fact that their personality is not one where they're ever going to feel that deepest level of comfort and of trust in your group. And so if you have people like that in your group, release them to go. You may even specifically say to your group, look, we want this group to be a lifelong investment. If you don't feel like you can become super close friends with all the people here, then maybe there's a better life group out there for you. Maybe there are other people that you would be better connected with, because it will enable you to grow the deepest kind of trust that's going to have the greatest impact on your life. And if you feel like your whole group is kind of in disarray, it's totally acceptable for you to say, we're at a place where we just don't feel like we can continue leading this group. And so thank you for joining us this term. We're not going to be leading again in the fall. If one of you wants to pick it up, that's great. But we feel like we need to pursue a different avenue, or however you want to put it. If there's anybody in your group who is in this place where they haven't connected, where the chemistry is just not there, where it's not the kind of relationships that they would look forward to being a part of for the rest of their lives, we'd encourage you on May 31st. We're going to hold a Taste of Life Groups dinner. It'll be here at the church from 6 until 8, and our goal is really to share a vision of lives shared together, but also to give you the time to begin meeting some people and to identify others who are at a similar place in life with you, who you might consider being a part of a life group come fall. It's no cost. There's no obligation. Come, enjoy it, be a part of it. It's May 31st. You can sign up on our website, or you can call the church office to sign up, but you do need to RSVP before you come. So don't just show up. let us know you're coming to make sure we have enough food, and also to give us enough about information about yourself so that we can seat you with people that we feel you might connect well with. So that's your practical tip for this week. In terms of this week's content, what a great place to end with this this examination of the difference in importance between the temporal, those things that happen here in time on this earth in our lives, and the eternal, those spiritual realities that are going to live on forever. Where Jesus didn't come, as Dan said, just to make us more comfortable, but really to deal with our sin problem, to restore the relationship that was intended for an eternity with God, but was destroyed by our sin. And so we're encouraging you this week to recognize the need to focus more on the eternal things and less on worldly concerns. Part of this process actually impacts the way we look at our past as well. We'll spend some time talking about these ideas of lasting guilt and shame. And the sad truth is that even though in our heads we can understand that God has forgiven us, that He's wiped the slate clean, a lot of times we don't let that seep down into our hearts and into the way that we look at ourselves. And so we spend our lives feeling embarrassed or shamed or guilty over things that happened in the distant past and that have been forgotten by God, purposefully put out of His mind in the forgiveness that we have in Jesus Christ. We look at ourselves and we determine our worth, our self-worth, in terms of what we have done instead of in terms of what God has given us. And the reality is that grace is never deserved. If it is deserved, it's not grace at all. It's just wages, so to speak. It's getting what we've earned. Grace says, I will give you what you do not deserve because I love you and because your value in my eyes is incredibly deep. And so we want to continually remind ourselves, like, look, the past has been forgiven. God does not look at me as that person anymore, so why should I look at myself like that? We talk a little bit in 2 Corinthians about suffering and the eternal glory that far outweighs it all. And the reality is again, being a Christian does not guarantee that we're going to be comfortable, that life is going to be easy. In fact, quite the opposite. The gospel of Jesus Christ is radically opposed to the patterns of this world. And so we should expect that there's going to be conflict, that there's going to be this friction between our sinful desires and our sanctified reality, the new creation that God has made us into. There's going to be conflict between a world that knows it is unrighteous and does not want to change, and a God who demands righteousness and who wants to change us. We should expect persecution. Jesus said that if they persecuted Him, why would we expect any less as people who are to be made like Him? And then the way to get through that, the encouragement that we need to persevere through that, is by looking at Jesus Christ, is by looking at eternity. It's saying that the eternal glory that God has prepared for us far outweighs this all. We look at the interplay between these two things and we recognize that Jesus' greatest act, his greatest gift that He gave us, was done through incredible suffering. The grace that He gives us is so remarkable because of the cost that it was to Himself, because He died that we might have life. And so when we then suffer in order that others might have life, when we go through difficult times to bring others into a knowledge of Jesus Christ, what we're doing is we are mirroring what God has done. We are becoming like Christ in that. When we suffer for the benefits of others, we're making an incredible statement that goes far beyond the impact of the words, I love you. And so let us look at our lives. Let us look at the suffering that we may face, though we probably will face in some way or another. And let us live through it with hope and with joy and with excitement over who God is and what He's doing and the eternal glory that He has prepared for us. I hope you have a great summer. We'll pick up this podcast again in the fall, and so I will see you back here then. Take care. God bless.